Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Jeremy Siskind here. I'm the author of this book, which is called Playing Solo Jazz Piano. But today we're actually not really going to talk about something that's used for solo piano. We're going to talk about playing voicings that you would use if you're playing in a band. And before you get to any of playing solo jazz piano, although, of course, you should buy the book ASAP, obviously. Buy a few copies. But before you get to those things, you do need to understand some principles of jazz voicings. And every great solo pianist, just about, also has a lot of experience playing in a band. So these voicings would be something that you would use if you have a bass player covering the bass, as well as if you have somebody singing or playing the melody. So maybe if you're playing with a saxophone, a trumpeter, a guitarist, or a vocalist who's playing the melody or taking a solo. And I'm calling this the first lesson in voicings. This is the first lesson I give to my students in voicings. And then I'm going to follow this up immediately with my second lesson in voicings, which I'll show you some voicings that you would use if you have a bass player, but you're playing the melody or taking a solo. So those will be one-handed voicings. So these are two-handed voicings, and I call these shell voicings. And just to give you an idea, voicing means that we're taking a chord in root position, blocked out, and we're moving it across the piano. So here's a chord that's not voiced. I'll play a C major 7. It sounds fine, but it's very blocky. I can add the 9th, and it's okay. But I'm going to show you the exact voicing we're going to use today with the same chord, and it sounds like this. It's so much more pleasant. It's so much more resonant. It's so much more open sounding. So that's what we're getting into today. And I'm going to show you then how to do it, how to use these voicings on a 2-5-1 and a nice exercise to practice. So let's dive in. First thing, let's just spell out these notes of a C major 7 so you can see what's going to happen to all of them. So on a C major 7, here's what it would look like for the left hand. Hopefully you can see that over in the corner. And I'm going to be giving each note a corresponding name or number. So I'm going to say R for the root, the first note of the chord, 3 for the third, 5 for the fifth, 7 for the seventh, and 9 for the ninth, right? If you guys aren't familiar with the ninth is the same as the second scale degree, or a whole step above the root. But you can see that we're going up in odd numbers because we're stacking thirds on top of each other. And I know that most of you who are sophisticated enough to watch this video already know this, but these numbers obviously don't refer to the place in the chord. What they're referring to is the place in the corresponding scale. So if I were to write out a C major scale, that's where we're getting these numbers from. So here's a very sloppily, quickly written C major scale. R would be the root, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Right, usually we'd stop at 8, but I'm continuing on. And so that's where we're selecting every other note to get these chord tones. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to make two voicing types now from this C major 7. I'm going to quickly erase this scale. And we're going to call them type A and type B. And this is just nomenclature to help clarify things educationally. It doesn't really matter which one you start with, which one, is... they're not different. It's just going to help us talk about it. Okay. People do, by the way, kind of use this type A, type B terminology pretty standardly across jazz education. So it's not just my thing, just so you know. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put the root down here in parentheses. When you're playing with the bass player, usually we leave out the root. It depends on the style, it depends on the player, it depends on the bass player. But in our kind of standard jazz voicing, we're going to leave that to the bass so that we can play more in the middle register of the piano. Now, I'm leaving it in parentheses because it's really hard to hear the chord without the root. So as you're practicing these, you might want to hit the root, hold down the pedal, and then play your voicing. Okay, so the root goes down. Now, what type A and type B have in common is that we're going to keep the third and the seventh of the chord, which we'll call our essential tones, in the left hand. And then we're going to put the fifth and the ninth of the chord, which we'll call our color tones, in the right hand. Did I say that right? Let me say it one more time just in case. We're going to put our third and our seventh, which we call essential tones, into the left hand. and we're going to put the 5th and the 9th, which we call our color tones, into the right hand. Okay. The difference is that on type A, we're going to have our 3rd below our 7th. So 3 and then 7th, or if we want to do this. And then we're going to have our 9th below our 5th. I don't know if this is helpful, but I'll draw you some arrows just in case. Okay, so 3, 7, 9, 5. Now, those of you who are really smart and perceptive might notice that without this root note, this actually looks like the notes of an E minor 7 chord, right? E, B, D, and G. That makes E minor 7. And it's true, without a C major 7 looks like an E minor 7. But with that root note, you can hear that it sounds like C major. On type B, we're simply going to reverse the notes in each hand. So instead of our 3rd being below our 7th, we're going to put the 3rd on top. And now we're going to have 7, 3. And then again, instead of our 9th being below our 5th, we're going to put the 9th on top. 5 and 9. Same 4 notes, just a slightly different order. And you're going to see soon why we have this type A and type B. So again, here's type A, just so you can compare and contrast. Here's type B. Maybe type B sounds a little bit brighter here because it's higher, but again, they're the same 4 notes, similar order in that the 7th and 3rd are staying in the left hand, the 5th and the 9th are staying in the right. Let's do one more type of chord together, just so you get the hang of it. Let's do a D minor 7, another friendly white key chord. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stack it up. Name them root 3, 5, 7, and 9. I'll zoom in so you can see that a little better just in case. Okay. And then remember, type A is going to have the 3rd on bottom. I'm going to put that root in parentheses here. 3, 7, and then the 9th on bottom. And the way that I remember this is that you're always going to want the interval of a 3rd between the top note of the right hand, between the top note of the left hand and the bottom note of the right hand. I'm feeling dyslexic today, I guess. And again, then you're going to reverse these for type B, and notice that principle actually stays the same between the F on the top of the right hand and the A. Between the F on the top of the left hand and the A on the bottom of the right hand, they'll stay the same. So this is 7, 3, 5, 9. Man, my writing's messy. Okay. Cool. Now, you might be wondering how, well, let's listen to this before we go there. Again, if you're super perceptive, you notice that these notes look like the notes of an F major 7 chord. Until you add that D, it sounds major. Maybe there's something deep to say that, within every major chord is a minor chord, within every minor chord is a major chord. I don't know. So you might be wondering, how do you know what range to write these in, right? How low, how high? And my rule of thumb, and maybe that's a pun intended, is that you want to keep the lowest note, and I've had students get confused about this before, so I'm going to underline this, put it in a box, the lowest note of the voicing. Basically between what we call C3 and C4. C4 is middle C. So here, this F is the lowest note of the voicing. That falls right in between C3 and C4. Now, this one's kind of interesting. The C over here, right? That's right on our boundary. So this is actually going to sound okay either there or a little bit lower. Notice that we don't spread the hands out. I wouldn't keep the right hand high and then bring the left hand low. It sounds weird. It no longer has that nice resonance, that nice kind of ring that we want from these voicings. Okay, just to reinforce that point, let's look at these other voicings. So remember, our border notes that we're looking at is this C, and then it's that C. Okay, so remember, we're only looking at the lowest note, and yeah, that E comes in between those two Cs. This B, barely, but does come in between those two C's. And notice it's going to start sounding just a little bit too low if we were to write it down here. That's right on the border, so it's not going to be a disaster, but listen, it's pretty low for me. So that's my recommendation. Keep the lowest note only must be between C3 and C4. Okay, so now that we know a little bit about type A and type B voicings, what I want to do is to show you how we're going to use those in the context of a 2-5-1. Okay, if you don't know about a 2-5-1, I'm sure there's great YouTube videos, but essentially it's the most common chord progression in jazz. It's made up of a minor chord based on the 2nd scale degree, a dominant chord based on the 5th scale degree, and then a major 7th chord based on the root. And whenever you have a 2-5-1, you're going to be alternating between type A and type B. Now that might mean that you start with type A and you go A, B, A. Or it might mean that you start with type B and you go B, A, B. And you're going to see exactly why. So let's start with type A here for the D minor 7. So remember, type A is going to be 3, 7, 9, 5. I'm going to go a little faster now. You guys can do this along with me at home. Check your work. If you want to hit pause, go ahead. Not that you needed to wait for my permission. Okay. And then remember, type B, we're going to reverse that. 7th is on bottom. Okay. So the 7th of a G7 is F. The 3rd is a B. The 5th is a D. The 9th is an A. Just let's double check ourselves. Our lowest note is staying between these two border C's. And we have a nice 3rd. Right there. So we're doing good so far. These are the biggest problems I see my students having, is putting them in the wrong range and spreading their hands apart. So that's why I'm reinforcing that for you. And then we go back to type A. Remember, this is 3, 7, 9, 5. 3rd, 7th, 9th, 5th. We already did this one, so we should be good to go. So notice what's happening. The one thing I didn't do is I didn't put our bass notes in parentheses here. I don't expect you, by the way, in order to demonstrate, I'm playing one note in the root in the left, and then 3 in the right. When you're practicing these, you want to practice as though there's a bass player. And if you really want to hear it, you could use something like iReal Pro, some sort of a backing track, or again, you can hit the bass notes. Okay, so why did I tell you it's essential to alternate between type A and type B? It's not just because I'm neurotic, it's because it creates what we call good voice leading. Right? Voice leading is the process by which we make melodies across harmonies, by having each note of each chord move smoothly, usually by step or by staying the same to the next chord. I'll show you what I mean. So if we look at this top line as though it's a melody, we have first this A, it stays on an A, and then it moves to a G. Can you all see that? So it's going, ba-da-do. I'm not a singer, I apologize for my singing. If we look at what would be the alto line, the lower line in the right hand, it goes E, D, D, right? Same thing, it's going to keep going like that if we look at the tenor line, the top line in the left hand. Now we have do, 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 and then the lowest line, F, F, E, very smooth, right? So listen to this. If we had a choir singing 4 parts, nobody would have to move that much. It doesn't jump around. If we went A, 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 it would be like this. And one of the reasons that we like good voice leading is it means that when we have tense notes, they resolve appropriately. For example, on the D minor 7, in jazz we don't really think of the 7th as being that tense, but it does want to pull to this B. And the good voice leading makes that possible. Same thing, on the G7, I'm going to try to highlight this for you. Let's see if you could see that highlight. Not really. But we have this F, which is the 7th. And again, we have kind of different standards for tension in jazz, but this still wants to resolve there. And the good voice leading makes it possible. Now, one nice thing to remember here that can help you learn these 2-5-1s faster is that either the inner or the outer notes are going to be moving at any one time. So, for example, and you can watch my fingers here if you want, from the D minor 7 to the G7, these outer two are actually going to stay the same, and these inner two are going to move. And then the opposite, going from the C major to the going from the G7 to the C major, these guys are going to stay the same, these guys are going to slide down. So that's a nice kind of way to check yourself, as well as a way to kind of help yourself acquire some muscle memory. Now, let's do the opposite. Let's do B-A-B, and just to give yourself another challenge, you can have more practice, more time to check your work. We'll go to a different key for this next 2-5-1. Erasing is fun. Erasing is fun. Okay, so let's do a 2-5-1 in F. No crazy keys yet. Okay, so B-A-B this time. So I'd love for you to pause it and try it for yourself at this point, and then you can check your work against what I do. But I'm going to explain it as I go along in case you need some more practice. So a type B voicing is 7, 3, 5, 9. And I'm just going to go ahead and slot that in both places. And then type A in the middle is 3, 7, 9, 5. Okay. Maybe the easiest thing to do is write in your bass notes, your roots of the chords in parentheses at the very bottom. Make sure you give yourself enough room. Now let's start filling these in. So the 7th of the G minor 7 is an F. And you're only going to have one F in between our boundary notes, these two C's. Okay? You can't do it down here. You can't do it up here, not that you would want to. You got to put the lowest note in between those two C's, right there. The third on top is going to be B flat. And then make sure you're keeping your third in between the left and right hand. Fifth and ninth. All right. The third of C7 is an E natural. We can watch for our voice leading, and that F wants to lead to that E there. The 7th is a B flat. The 9th is a D. The 5th is a G. Again, we're doing a good job keeping our lowest note in between these two. And we're doing a good job keeping a third between the right and left hands. And then finishing it off, E, A, C, and G. So here's your 2-5-1 in F starting on type B. Or if you want to hear it with the root notes. Now, some of you who are already kind of sophisticated with jazz voicings might notice something that is potentially different than you learned it, which is that a lot of people, just so you guys know, teach the voicings for particularly the dominant chord in a 2-5-1 using the 13th, which is the same note as the 6th, instead of the 5th. And that's going to sound great. I have nothing against that, other than it ruins that outsides move, insides move. I think it's just simpler to start with this 7, 3, 5, 9. But if you're ready to add a little bit more color, whoa, that's not the color I was expecting. Speaking of adding color, we could use the 13th there. And that's going to be really lovely and colorful. It's really nice. I have nothing against it, other than that I think for your first time learning it, I think that simple formula of 9th and 5th on top is a little bit easier. And same thing, you can have the 13th instead of the 5th on the major 7th chord as well. So instead of that C, we could bump that up. Again, remember the 13th is the same note as the 6th scale degree, and you can have this S chord, which is a little bit more colorful than this. They're both lovely, they're just slightly different sounds. So if you're wondering what's happening to the 13th, that's what's happening to the 13th. So I get it that if you've never done anything like this before, you're probably like, how am I ever going to see G minor 7 and instantly play that voicing? The answer is practice. But probably most specifically, the answer is practicing these 2-5-1s, right? With these 2-5-1s, you get through 3 different chord types, and you're getting in this good muscle memory that's going to allow you to play most common standards. And so I definitely recommend practicing 2-5-1s. And I have an exercise that I really like, which will get you through half the keys, and then you have to do it a half step up. So what you're going to do is you could start on D minor, do this 2-5-1 to C, right? We've already written out voicings for this. I'm going to write them out real quick for you, and I'm going to start on type A. You don't always have to start on type A. Now, what we're going to do to help us practice is we're going to turn C major into C minor. And if you think about it, the difference between a major 7 and a minor 7th chord is that the 3rd and the 7th are lowered by a half a step. So we can take this exact same voicing, but instead of an E natural and a B natural, we're going to have a E flat and a B flat. So from here, we're going to go to there, and now we have C minor 7. Now C minor 7 is going to become the 2, so you might have to do a little calculation, think about your theory, and this becomes a 2-5-1 in B flat, right? Because C is the second scale degree in the key of B flat, so that's how we know that's 2-5-1 in B flat. And so our chords are going to be C minor 7, F7, B flat 7, and we're going to go. What are we going to do from there? I'm going to shift over on my screen first of all. But then we're going to take this B flat, just like we did to the C, and we're going to make it a B flat minor 7. Again, we could take this exact same voicing, except we lower the 3rd, we lower the 7th. Okay. This is about to get interesting here, if it's not already. Okay, so we've got B flat minor. Now we're in the key of A flat major. And again, we know we could figure that out because B flat is the second scale degree in A flat major. Now, I said it's about to get interesting, not just because we're getting to some more difficult keys, but because as we turn A flat major into A flat minor, guess what happens? So C and G go to C flat and G flat, but this C is now below our threshold. So just like a typewriter, we've got to jump back up. I know, super modern reference, typewriter. So instead of starting down here, doing that really low 2-5-1, we're going to jump up for this A flat minor. So it was a C flat and a G flat. So now it's on the high side, but we're okay with that. And we're going to do our 2-5-1 to G flat. So now it's B and F. I've done this a few times before, if you can't tell. So this exercise is going to help you get through the keys. I'll show you. So you go 2-5-1 to C, 2-5-1 to B flat, 2-5-1 to A flat, 2-5-1 to G flat, and then we keep going. We'd make G flat major, G flat minor, or F sharp minor, 2-5-1 to E, 2-5-1 to D, and we're back, right? I've practiced this before, I'll show you. That's all the 2-5-1s there, right? Muscle memory. And by the way, you want to practice it both starting your 2-5-1s on type A and starting your 2-5-1s on type B. For you first timers, if this is new to you, I definitely recommend writing out your voicings first. Don't expect to just be able to intuitively do it. I can do this because I've written them out first and I practiced them for many, many hours. If you can do it without that, congratulations, you're probably a prodigy or a genius. But most of us mortals like me, and probably like you, have to really spend some time. Now, we do only get through half the keys. So if you want to, great view of my torso, really good production quality here. If you want to get through all of the keys, which you do because you want to be prepared to play in any key, then start a half step up. Start on E flat minor. And now you'll get the keys that you missed. So that's where I would get started with these voicings. I hope that was really helpful. Again, this book, I mean, come on. You gotta buy it. Buy it from my website, jeremysiskind.com. Please like and subscribe and comment. I appreciate y'all. I'll see you soon.